Okay, so it has been a while again, and I have this massive pile of trades and hardcovers that have been here for like 7 months. There's been some additions, but for the most part it's been here for 7 months. I've been meaning to make this video. I acquired some of these, I think like the oldest one here is probably I got in 2015 or 2014 or something. And I finally got around to reading this pile, well most of it, at the beginning of this year, so let's just dive into it first. This one's, did this come out this year or the end of last year? It's the hardcover of Hard Boiled by Frank Miller and Jeff Darrow. I didn't know how to explain this, so I went onto Wikipedia, and I think the premise on Wikipedia explains it very nicely. If my phone will open, it is frozen. An insurance investigator discovers he is also a homicidal cyborg tax collector who happens to be the last hope of an enslaved robot race. I know that sounds really weird, but it's more about like the detailed art by Jeff Darrow. The art is amazing. It's very gory, so I wouldn't let your kids look at this. I'd say his art is kind of, it's very busy and detailed, kind of like Berserk. I've heard that like the reason that Berserk doesn't come out as often as it could is because he puts so much detail and takes so long drawing the things. Kind of remind me of that. The story's meh, but the pictures are lovely to look at. Just think of it as a picture book. Next up we have The Complete Luther Strode. This is by Justin Jordan and Tradd Moore. Tradd Moore's artwork is a bit, I don't know, some people might not like it. I didn't like it in the beginning. I used to hate it when he drew Deadpool, but then I came to appreciate it. This one also, it's not, the story's not as paper thin as Hard Boiled, but it's basically about this kid, what was it? He gets some kind of ancient book and learns super martial arts and becomes super muscly. And then it just turns into sort of like Dragon Ball. He just fights and kills. This one's pretty gory too. It's just another one of those fighty ones, so it's probably not for everyone. There's lots of blood and heads getting chopped off. If you're into that, I recommend it. And then next we have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Ultimate Collection, Volume 2. I got the first one when it came out ages ago, like 2010 or 11. It's kind of expensive. It's like 5,000 yen. So, but there's only 4. It just took me ages to get the second one, and then it took me ages to read it. And now IDW are releasing softcover versions of this that are like half the price. You could have done that from the get-go. So the third volume, I'm getting the softcover version of this. But Old TMNT is, if you're a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan, I've never read the comics, it's really worth it. They're very, very good. It's pretty different from the cartoon show. Next we have Jason Aaron's Sculpt. 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you like Jason Aaron, you'll enjoy this. It's very gritty. It's about... how do I do? There's kind of a twist in the first, not the first issue. It's about a guy who's been away. He's a Native American. He's been away from his reservation for years, and he comes back after years, and the reservation is all like, there's a casino, it's all corrupt and everything. It's very gritty and violent. So if you're not into that, then you know, I like gritty and violent things. I got like the 1, 2, and 4. They were all 100 yen on Yahoo Auction, and I loved it so much, and I got Mime to buy me issue 3 for Christmas. Still haven't finished it, but I probably will eventually if I remember to buy the rest. Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, book 6. This is the final book in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. Wonderful. If you're only going to read one run of Swamp Thing, read the Alan Moore Swamp Thing. It's wonderful. I think this, Mime has been buying me this every year for either Christmas or my birthday since like 2012, I want to say, and finally finished it. Flex Mentallo by Grant Morrison. I'd never read this. It's very weird. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be about, actually. Yeah, I like the art. The art is by Frank Quietly. Did I say his name right? I really like Frank Quietly's art. People, I don't know. He has this art style that really divides people. People either like it or despise it. I like it. Some more Frank Miller. We have Doom Patrol. I picked the first volume up because I read the Gerard Way one and I really liked it, and everyone's like, the Grant Morrison one's better, so I picked it up, and yeah, it probably is better. Yeah, the Gerard Way one is definitely heavily inspired by this one. I think they're friends, aren't they? Grant Morrison was in one of their music videos or something like him. Next we have Transmetropolitan. 1, 2, 3, 4 I already had, and 5 I found these all for 100 yen each. I either had 4 or 5. I don't know. It doesn't. Some of them aren't numbered, but I had one. Got one in like 2009 or 10. Read it and loved it, and I never went back to it. And then I saw it for 100 yen, and I was like, that's great. It's about futuristic, not super into the future, but pretty futuristic America. This was written in the late 90s, mid 90s to the early 2000s. And it's about Spider Jerusalem, who is a super rebel. He writes a column and exposes the truth, and it's very depressing if you read it now, because it's supposed to be a super corrupt, fucked up America, but it's kind of like what America is now. So even the president, I think does the president change? But the president's kind of like a Trump character. It's like, I don't know, Warren Ellis. Oh, and Derek Robertson does the art, which I really like. He did the art for The Boys, and other things that I can't remember. And then we have all of the Sandman. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 and 10. Some of these I already had. These again I found for really cheap. I had like the beginning, middle and end. I never had the whole collection, and I never read it all, but I knew this because I had the beginning, middle, and I pretty much knew what had happened, but I hadn't read it for years. And then what was it Sandman Overture or something like that came along, and I was kind of excited for that. The art was beautiful, but this might be a bit of a controversial opinion. I thought it was really boring. And that kind of... It didn't sour me on Sandman, but it made me think, oh, maybe it wasn't as good as I thought it was. Because when I initially read it, and I thought it was amazing. And then I got the whole collection and read it all the way through. There is not a dull moment in this. Another Vertigo title I really like, this is completely different, but... Preacher. I really like that, but that has a bit of a lull. But this, never a dull moment. If you're going to recommend, if you have a friend who's a non-comic book reader, or who doesn't like superhero comics and wants to get into comics, recommend them Sandman. There's 10 volumes, but I'm sure you can find the 10 volumes somewhere. Or get them digitally. Who cares? And next, I have the full set of Sin City. Again, I had most of the ones that I had Hard, Goodbye, A Dame to Kill, Big Fat Kill, and Yellow Bastard, all the famous ones. But this one, they all connect and make a picture of what's the stripper's name? I can't remember. I think that's Jessica Alba's character in the movie. I'm a sucker for like things that connect, like the Dragon Ball manga and stuff like that. And I read this right after Sandman, and it's kind of like watching I don't want to say super artsy movie, but a sort of mainstream artsy movie that makes you think, and then watching a super like Michael Bay action movie. Don't get me wrong, it's really good. I really like it, but it definitely does, as it goes along, the quality does decline. So you should probably just read up till maybe the Yellow Bastard, and then just, if you're still interested, read the rest. But just read Hard Goodbye, Dame to Kill for Big Fat Kill, and Yellow Bastard. So I feel like I should have got this a long time ago. I haven't read it yet. I got it very recently. It's all of Scott Pilgrim. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got them all for probably less than the price that you'd pay for one volume brand new. So that was really good. I can't wait to read that. Heard lots of good things about that. These two are also very recent. I got these beginning of this year and a couple of weeks ago. It's Hellboy Omnibus 1 and 2. I have read Hellboy here and there, but I wanted all of it. I wanted to read all of it in order, and they're releasing these omnibuses. And there's only 4. I thought there was more Hellboy, but I guess there's like is it BPRD and like all these other spin-off things, but the actual Hellboy title apparently fits into big 4 books, and I don't have to buy book 4 because I have all of Hellboy in Hell. So looking forward to reading that. All of the hardbacks for, oh my god, Ex-Machina. I hope I pronounced that right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's by Brian K. Vaughan, who also is doing the Saga, Paper Girls, Why the Last Man, that weird Wolverine comic where he's in Japan and the atomic bomb is dropped on him, and it's a very weird comic book. I'm going to try and forget about that. The art is by, who is it? It's the guy who does Starman. I forgot his name, I'm really sorry. Tony Harris. It's about an ex-vigilante who becomes the mayor of New York post 9/11. So I think it started a little bit after 9/11, and it is a wonderful story. It's 60 issues up until issue 59. There's like ups and downs. There's parts that make you almost want to cry. There's lots of feel-good moments, and then issue 60 rolls around, and you're like, I don't want to spoil it for you, but issue 60, because of issue 60, I'm not sure if I should recommend it to people, because it's like, you read it and you're like, what? But up until then, it's really great. I don't want to say it's a bad ending. I don't know how to. I didn't know how to process it when I first read it, and I think a lot of people would either just feel weird about it. It's like it's so sudden, and you're like, the fuck. But I still think you should read it. Wildstorm, a celebration of 25 years. If you are a fan of any of the Wildstorm comics, you should pick this up. I really enjoyed this because it has the original art for The Authority by Mark Millar and Frank Quietly. I love it because they had these characters that were pretty much the Avengers, and they looked way too much like the Avengers, and there's this very questionable scene that is, I don't want to say what it is, but because they look too much like the Avengers and the issues that went out, they had to change it. But in this one, it's in black and white, but you get to see the Avengers versus the Authority in all its glory. And it's just scummy Avengers. You also get like some new mini stories from like, what do we have? There was, by the original artists, there's like some, was there some Gen 13? I feel like there was some Gen 13. There's some Wildcats. Oh, there was even Sleep. Was it Sleeper? There's lots of. If you're a fan of the Wildstorm universe, you should definitely get it. If you don't know what the Wildstorm universe is, then don't bother. Here's Negan. This was, I think this stories ran in, what is it, Image Plus or something, and it's just collected all that. It's the origin of Negan. It's very short, but if you're a fan of Negan, you should get it. And it kind of paints Negan as a bit of a sympathetic character, and you can kind of see why he became who he is, you know. Well, it is an origin story. Kind of made me like Negan, you know, because when I read issue 100, for those of you who haven't read the comic books, it's almost issue 200, so I guess I can spoil it. That's when Glenn gets his head bashed in. Everyone was like screaming about that last year because of was it last year on the television show? Oh my god! But I was experiencing that in 2012, so I was like, oh, they finally killed him. Because I stopped watching The Walking Dead season, I want to say season 3. I think I got bored. Yeah, season 3. I started at season. No, I got bored at season 2, and then I tried a bit of season 3, and then I was just like, tap. Archer and Armstrong. This is the complete classic omnibus, the original Archer and Armstrong from Valiant Comics. Because Valiant, I don't know, it doesn't have a proper ending, which kind of annoyed me, but I still really like it. It's kind of like a buddy cop movie, but with an immortal and a kid who can do any kind of martial arts and is part of a cult, but then it breaks out from the cult and they go on these adventures. Valiant got bought out by Acclaim, the gaming company, and then it went out of business. And for the longest time, all of the characters were in limbo, and then they started Valiant Entertainment 2012, and they had the new Archer and Armstrong, and then they had A&A, so you should read all of those are good too. I'm a huge fan of the Valiant universe. This one, I think is this the oldest one? I think this came out I bought this in 2015 and I didn't read it until the beginning of this year. It's Ex-Machina War. This one is the classic omnibus because are they going to release volume 2? It's not all of it. Who's it done by? It is done by someone Bob Layton, Jim Shooter, Steve Englehart. Art by Joe Quesada, art by Barry Windsor Smith. It's like Iron Man if he was an ancient warrior who was kidnapped by aliens and then got his suit from the aliens. That's kind of like it's weird, but it's really good. But in later issues, even though this is kind of like a 90s comic, it becomes super 90s because I have some of the single issues. It becomes like super 90s, and I don't know if I really want them to release the rest because there's like a nice cast of side characters that you kind of grow to like, and towards the end they kill them all off. Comic books. And then this is the latest omnibus, I think. It's Ninjak. He is a ninja that works for MI6. This should be a movie by now. Hurry up and make a movie about it. This is the complete classic omnibus, but this is another one of those ones that Acclaim bought it, they ended everything, and oh yeah, they restarted everything. They restarted Ex-Machina War, and he worked for the US military, but then that guy dies, and then the scientist who helped build the machine it's really bad. And Ninjak, if I can get a picture of what they did to him, becomes this, and it's just terrible. And I never read the full one, and it obviously ends on kind of a cliffhanger, but it was supposed to go in a direction where Ninjak trains a new female ninja, but I can't show it. But it never happens. The only good thing that came out, I'd say the only good thing that came out of Acclaim buying Valiant is Quantum and Woody. Everything else, all the other they did reboots of, they did Ex-Machina War, Ninjak. What else did they do? They did some other things. Recently got a chance to read some of them. I bought Ex-Machina War because I'm a huge fan, but the rest I just sort of like flipped through. That's terrible. And Ex-Machina was done by Mark Waid, and it's probably one of the worst things he's done. Next we have Killing and Dying. I bought this because of the title. It's sort of like an indie comic. It's slice of life type of thing. I can't really remember. It was New York Times bestseller. It's okay. I talked about this on my Japanese channel, Milk and Cheese. I can't believe I haven't read this up until now. Evan Dorkin. Very short stories, like a page, like 2 pages sometimes, 4 pages at most. Milk and Cheese, they're jaded, would you call it anthropomorphic? Where they're just like living a carton of milk and a chunk of cheese that love TV, beer, and hate everything else. They like going on rampages and destroying the city. This is one of the latest ones I love. They go to a furry convention and just beat the shit out of furries. They're like, what is this? And it's basically the same gag again and again, but it never gets old. I wish I had like read this long ago. This comic book is for me. This is everything from 89 to 2010. He doesn't do it anymore. He also did Bill and Ted comics. I have 1 issue of that. I can't find any more, but it's really good, and it's a good mix of like the movies and cartoon show, and I think it's pretty underrated. I've only read 1 issue and I really enjoyed it. I got it like in a bundle, and there was this in England. There was this CD shop, and in the window they had this bundle of 10 comics, and the first comic that I could see was X-Men issue #1 with Storm on it, but there were way better comics inside there, like Bill and Ted, John Sable, Badger. Okay, this one I got in England. It's an indie comic, Through the Woods. Very nice art. Can't quite remember what happened, but I enjoyed it. Next, I'm really late to the game on this one. Lock and Key by Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, if you don't know. By reading it, you can kind of tell because it's about lock and key. It's about locks and keys. There's these kids move into this. I think they move into this house and they find like this locks and keys. There's one part where they unlock the kid's head. It's very trippy. I think it's finished, so I should probably buy the rest and finish it. IDW's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is really good. This is volume 10 and 11. I don't know what volume they're up to, but I'm so behind. The Complete Judge Dredd volume 2. I bought 1 ages ago. Loved it. Took me ages to buy 2. I grew up in England. I read Judge Dredd here and there, but I never read it properly. And I bought volume 1. I'm like, oh my god, there's so much more Judge Dredd I need to catch up on. Arrowsmith by Kurt Busiek. I think I've talked about this before. I think they train dragon. It takes place in the Second or First World War, or is it like a mystical war? People like train dragons, and do they ride on the dragons, or they fly along with their? No, they fly along with their pet dragons and fight the war. Copra by Michel Fife. I hope I said his name right. It's basically his love letter to Mike. Oh, who is the original? I forgot who did it. Was it Mike Barron? No, it's not Mike Barron. Oh, I can't remember. John Ostrander's Suicide Squad. I was going to say Suicide Club. Isn't that like a Japanese horror movie? It's what Suicide Squad should be at the moment. The Suicide Squad has just gone down the toilet. Then we have Man-Eating Cow. I'm trying to get all of the collections of the Tick spin-offs and stuff. This, unfortunately, isn't done by Ben Edlund, the original creator, because he went on to be like a TV producer. He does some of the art, and it's about a cow, and it eats bad guys. The cow never talks, it just moves all the time. Oh, and it has Chainsaw Vigilante too. It's really funny. I feel like not many people have captured the feel of Ben Edlund's original Tick, and a lot of the other following after he left. Tick comics are pretty bad, but this catches the original sort of vibe, and it's still pretty funny. My friend Shawsan got me this when he went to America. It's Alias, but Jessica Jones Alias, but it's the first 9 issues of Alias. I have like 8 to 24, 27. I don't have all of them. I have like bits and bobs, but I've never read it. And if you like the TV show, definitely read the comic book. Spider-Man Tangled Web. This is like, they had various writers do this, and Spider-Man barely shows up. It's more about like side characters. There's one about, I think, Raven, the wrestler from ECW and WWE and WCW. He does he writes a story about, what's his name is, Crusher. What was the wrestler's name? That wrestler that Spider-Man fights in like issue 1. It's about him and up until he fights Spider-Man. And there's lots of, we've got Brian Azzarello, Ron Zimmerman, Sean Phillips, Paul Pope, Daniel Way. It's just they bring on not each issue, but I think there's a Rhino arc that I really like. It's not in here, but he becomes really smart and becomes like the kingpin of crime, but then he doesn't like being smart anymore and then goes back to being... It's a sweet story. I like it. Darwin Cook's The New Frontier 1 and 2. I just love his art. It's a shame that he passed away. This, A Death in the Family. I'd read this. I didn't know it was by Jim Starlin and Jim Amaro, actually. I read this. I remember reading this. I went over to my friend Leo's house when I was like 7 or 8, and I saw this, and I just sat there reading it, and I was like, Robin dies? And I hadn't read it since then, and I picked it up and read it, and I don't know. The part where... There's a part where, what is it? The Joker becomes the new Iranian ambassador to the UN. What the fuck? I don't remember that part, but that part's really funny. The Max. Love the Max. Love Keith. forgotten his name. I don't love him that much, I guess. Oh fuck, what's his name? Sam Keith, that's it. Sam Keith's art. He's one of those people whose art that I was like, ugh, and then as I grew older, I grew to appreciate the Maxes. I really like the Max. A lot of people probably remember the TV show from MTV, but it's very like dark and nice artwork, and it's weird in a good way. Mage Hero Discovered, Volume 2, 3, and 4. This is about, I'm not going to say reincarnation of like King Arthur, but his spirit sort of lives on, and he has to fight these weird magical beings, and he has like his sidekicks and mages and stuff. The original story was late 80s, and was it the inks or the colours are done by Sam Keith? It looks really good. And then the first story ended, and then he came back in the early 2000s or late 90s to early 2000s Image. The story's not as good, but I kind of miss Sam Keith's inks in the later ones. It's got more like a cartoony style. And recently they have released the final chapter that's still ongoing, so I decided to get all of these because I'd never read the first series, and I had the second series in singles. I sold them because I never thought that he'd finish the story, but here he is finishing the story. Ah! And then we have Multiple Warheads, Volume 1 and 2. This has just ended recently. It's by Brandon Graham, who reinvented Rob Liefeld's Prophet, which is amazing. It's great. This is probably not for everyone. His art style it's a bit quirky. I like it. It's very nice and kind of not Jeff Darrow detailed, but it's kind of detailed. But it originally started in a sex comic, so it's probably not for everyone. The main character is also called, I believe, what was it? She's called Sexica. Yeah, she's an organ smuggler, and in the first issue, she gets a present for her boyfriend, a wolf's penis, and she sews it on, and they have sex, and he has like these weird dreams about wolves and stuff, and yeah, it's definitely not for everyone. If that piqued your interest, definitely check it out. Okay, so we're almost done. Here we have Chew, 2, 3, 4. That's not Chew, that's Kid Savage. I read that and I don't remember what that's about anyway. Chew, I think I've talked about it before. I really enjoy it. I feel like it's a bit underrated. It finished recently, the ending. I don't know. I have my thoughts about this. I don't know if I liked it. I still don't know if I liked it or not. But it's about a cop who he has a special power where if he eats something, he gets all the memories of whatever he eats, but he can only eat beets because whenever he eats anything, he knows like all the pesticides. If he eats an apple, he knows what the pesticide and what it's gone through and all that stuff. So he can, for some reason, he can only eat beets, and he gets no flashbacks. And he eats parts of dead bodies to figure out how, it's a bit gross, but he eats parts of dead bodies to see how that person died. And there's all these other weird people with, it's kind of like One Piece, but better, because I don't like One Piece. I can't believe I compared it to One Piece. It's nothing like One Piece. He's a cop. And then we got Kieran Gillen's The Wicked and Divine. How do I even try to explain this? I think Brandon Graham did art for one of the issues. It's about like these kids who have like godlike powers, who are like rock stars, but I don't know how to explain this. I bought issue 1 and 2 when I went to America for the flight back, and then I bought issue 3 secondhand, and it's still going. I like it. Just read the premise on Wikipedia and see if you like it. The Astounding Wolfman. Is it a spin-off of Invincible? He's in Invincible. I don't know which one was first, but I just picked this up because I really like Invincible, and if you like Invincible, you probably enjoy this too. And there's a crossover with Invincible too. Pop Gun War. The first book for this came out ages ago. The first book was about an angel crashes into Earth. Does he crash into Earth? And a boy gets the angel wings. And this is about his sister, who's a young girl, and she's a child prodigy guitarist. Artwork is beautiful. And just flicking through, I just remembered what happens, and it is thoroughly weird. So if you like nice art and weird stories, check it out. And now onto the Spider-Man comics. God, this is a long video. Okay. Filling in gaps, we've got Peter Parker Spider-Man. I already have this, but I have a version that was sold in some Japanese bookstore and has a massive sticker on the back that I can't take off. Peter Parker Spider-Man issue 6, issue 16 with a very skinny looking Venom there. And then we have Sensational Spider-Man 12, Spider-Man Redemption issue 4. I bought issue 2 when I was like 12 and I could never find the rest. I don't have 1 or 3, but I know how it ends now and really like it. Then Spider-Man 2099 meets Spider-Man. We have some more of Spider-Man's Tangled Web, the 1000. It's by, is it John McCree? Garth Ennis, the guys who do, not The Boys, Hitman. It's very, very Garth Ennis. Spider-Man's Tangled Web by Darwin Cook. It's beautiful. Some Marvel Knight Spider-Man by Mark Millar. 3, 4, 6, 7, and then we have some Spectacular Spider-Man 122, 132. Is this the conclusion to Kraven's Lost Hunt? I think it is, actually. Then we have is this the second series of Spectacular Spider-Man by Paul Jenkins and Humberto Ramos, when his art was very crimson. It was like still that very, it's not as toned down as it is now. 6, so some people might not like the art. 7, the story, I kind of like this. 8, 9, and then we have some Web of Spider-Man, a very beat up issue 2 of Web of Spider-Man, but I don't really care if it's beat up as long as I can read it. Then we have some old Amazing Spider-Man. We have 149. That's the original. Is this the original Clone Saga? Oh, it is, yeah. 159. 165 with Stigron. 170. Finally got this. 252. It's the first appear. There was like, I think four different Spider-Man comics came out where he's wearing the black costume, but it's considered like one of the first appearances of the black costume. In continuity, it's Secret Wars. Which one is it? This one. I own it, and I can't even remember what issue it is. That came out way after this. And also Spectacular Spider-Man, I think 89, I also own that. And then like Marvel Team Up, and there's another one, but I don't have those two. But this is the one that matters. Then we have Amazing Spider-Man 255, 256, 257. I think I already have this one. 258, and I thought this was the end of the original like black costume saga, but it's the next issue. I think they used this image in the Spider-Man animated series after the black costume. No, that's X-Men. What's Spider-Man? Spider-Man, Radioactive Spider-Man. Spider-Man 262 with a photo cover. Massive sticker over here. I think it's Amazing Spider-Man 366. It was 367, just filling in the gaps. I'm trying to complete Amazing Spider-Man, and it's going to probably take ages. 368, 378, Maximum Carnage. 409, I think I have this, but again, I think I have one with a massive sticker on the back. Amazing Spider-Man 501, 502, ew, the other storyline, 526, 556, 557, 583, 607, cover by J. Scott Campbell. People really like J. Scott Campbell. He's good at like drawing sexy girls that all have the same face. I liked him when I was a little teenage boy, like Gen 13, but now it's just kind of like, dude, you just kind of draw the same thing again and again. I have this issue of Batman where he draws the Joker, and it looks fucking weird. And also, recently I found him on Instagram, and it's really interesting because I don't know if it's his wife or girlfriend, she looks exactly like the girls he draws. So she's either his inspiration or he's been drawing the girl of his dreams for like 2 decades, and he finally found her, so good for him. The Amazing Spider-Man 632 and Annual 37, and that is that. I have more comic books that I want to show you, but not in this video because I've already filmed for 30 minutes, so bye.